So we got an interesting question. What countries are tax havens for Americans to move to and get citizenship? Now, this is a rather common question when it comes to someone who wants to legally reduce their taxes, keep more of their money. But what we actually have here is 3 or 4 different issues, and I'm going to address exactly how to break down this question, how to move to a tax haven, how to keep more of my own money. We're going to whiteboard it out in this video. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson. So let's break this down. How do I move to a tax haven? We'll throw in the extra element of citizenship. That's kind of the wild card here. So this person is saying, I want to move, so I want to relocate. The person is saying it should be a tax haven. And the person is saying, where do I need to go so I can get citizenship? Now, here's the interesting part of this. Move, if you're going to live somewhere full-time, means you either need to be a citizen of the country or you need to have a residence permit. Tax haven, we're going to break down into 2 parts. We're going to break that down into the personal and, for most people, the business. And then citizenship is what it is. So here's how this works. You've got the personal part of the tax haven, which is where are you taxed? This is largely related to where you live. However, the person also said that he was an American, a U.S. citizen, so it's also related to his current citizenship. Okay? So U.S. citizens, no matter where they live, are part of the U.S. tax system, which means if you earn income, you can substantially reduce the amount of tax that you pay on that earned income through setting up things like foreign companies in a tax haven or anywhere else. But if you're earning passive income, if you have doing trading, stuff like that, you're not really going to be able to reduce your taxes very much. So what the person is saying is, number one, I want to move somewhere. That's where the personal tax comes into place. So that doesn't necessarily have to be a tax haven. There are plenty of places you can go and live. For example, as an American, you could simply be outside of the United States for the vast majority of the time. You could be living in any number of places. As long as you're not triggering their taxes, it's not going to be an issue. So I talked about, for example, my trifecta method, where you live in 3 different cities. You have 3 different homes, 4 months a year. In general, you're not going to be a tax resident in any of those. And if you're an American, if you're a U.S. person, the United States government doesn't care. They just care that you're not in the United States. So the moving piece doesn't necessarily have to be moving to a tax haven. So let's look at this as personal, where do I live? Company, where does my business live? And then in between, this is the space we need to be playing in. So if you want the tax haven strategy, if you say, okay, I want to pay, let's say the goal is 0% tax. Okay, well, let's list some 0% tax corporate havens. Belize, BVI, potentially Hong Kong. Okay, these are just some examples. Seychelles. Okay, plenty of places where you can go and you can pay 0 or very close to 0. And the list would go on of other countries. You can pay 2%, 5%, 9%, 10%, etc. Now, this is where the company's based. So you can see what's happening where, can I move to Belize? Sure, I can move to Belize. If I'm younger, it's going to be more difficult to get in because Belize is more focused on retirees. Can I move to the BVI? Well, that's going to be more difficult because that's British. Can I move to the Caymans? Yes, I can move to the Cayman Islands. It's very expensive. They require a lot of money. They want you to buy a very expensive home to be able to live there. So if you're using words like tax haven and you're very wealthy, that might be within your reach. However, is that the best value? Frequently people come to me. I had a guy recently who has a business that makes about $3 million a year. I said, are you willing to invest $1 million to go to one of the nicer islands? And he was really hesitant about it. I could sense, like, even if he said yes, he wasn't going to do it. So for most people who are just getting out at the beginning, you're probably not going to do the Cayman thing. Can you go to Hong Kong? Well, that's not going to work because then you're going to be living in Hong Kong and then they're going to tax you in Hong Kong. Can you move to Seychelles? Yeah, not really. So Out of all of these, there's downsides where, okay, maybe I want my company here, but I don't want to be there. Then, okay, where can I pay 0%? You have Cayman. There's like a special opportunity area there. You can set up a company there. Where else can you live? You can live in zero tax countries. So these are countries, many of the countries in the Gulf, Vanuatu, a number of countries around the world that have no tax. Okay, a lot of those are probably going to be unappealing for many people. And again, the few that are like really appealing, oftentimes they say, hey, buy a $500,000 house, buy $1 million house. That's probably less appealing. Territorial tax, depending on how your income is earned, depending on how you're earning and taking your income personally, a territorial tax country could work. Singapore, in some cases Hong Kong, Malaysia, Thailand, Costa Rica, countries like that, Panama, Georgia, those could be interesting. Then you could go to a country with a tax exemption, depending on how you earn your money and depending on what the structure is. You could go to a country like Portugal. There are other countries that have, 3-year, 4-year, 5-year tax exemptions. So these are all the possible ways to pay zero. Might not last forever. In the case of some of these, this will last for 10 years in Portugal, for example. If you go to Portugal, then you get to change this piece to where none of these companies are going to work. But you can kind of see what I'm talking about, where the two shouldn't match up. You don't want to say, okay, great, I'm starting my company in Belize, and then I'm going to go and live in Belize. I guess there are a few examples where that could actually work, but you probably don't want to do that. So what you want to do is find out how to operate this in the middle, where you get the benefits of both, and they both play nicely. And so this is the tax piece. Okay, there's a personal piece, and then there's the company piece. If you just set up a Belize company and then stay living in the United States, or if you set up a Belize company and move to France full-time, the Belize company is essentially worthless. You're just going to pay tax as a controlled foreign corporation there. Obviously, if you set up in a tax haven, personally, if you go to live in a tax haven, Monaco, another example, 0%, costs several million euros effectively to get in there between the bank deposit and the real estate. You could set up there, you could be in Monaco, and then you could set up your company in Malta, and you'd still be paying 5%. Or you could set up your company, anywhere else, and you'd still be paying whatever their taxes are. We want to figure out how to optimize those two. So where do I move? Well, you want to find a country where you're willing to live that meets one of these criteria. So zero tax, territorial tax, some kind of tax exemption, or possibly you're willing to pay some kind of low tax. Okay, there's plenty of other low tax countries. And then you want to set up your company in a tax haven. Now here's the missing piece that we haven't talked about, the wild card, as I said. This is the citizenship piece. So we figured out we need to move, we need to leave the United States, we need to get our personal tax haven and our business tax haven. The person says, where can I go and move to a tax haven and change citizenship? Okay, so these are actually like 3 or 4 questions, as I said, right? Where do I move? How do I do both sides of my taxes? And the citizenship, okay? This person's a U.S. citizen. For anyone else, you just move to a tax haven, you set up your affairs, you become tax non-resident in your home country, fine, you're done. For now, the home country will leave you alone. You just play by the rules of both of these, and you're fine. You can legally pay very, very little. If you're an American, the citizenship piece comes into play, and I imagine that's what this person was asking was, how do I change my citizenship? If you are a U.S. citizen, you are not going to be able to pay exactly zero, even if this is zero and this is zero, because the United States has rules that you can exempt part of your income as a salary, but some of your business profits above a certain exclusion, about $106,000, are going to be taxed under a new set of provisions under the Trump tax reform. So you're not going to be able to pay zero as an American. Now, where do I move and get citizenship? Okay, most zero tax countries are not going to grant you citizenship. Vanuatu has zero tax. They have a program where you can invest in citizenship by investment. It's not particularly good. I think there's some challenges with it. That's not going to work. None of the Gulf countries are going to give you citizenship. Most, Monaco, you got to live there for 12 years, I believe. So zero tax countries, very difficult to get citizenship. Can you get citizenship in a territorial tax country? Yeah, some of them. You go and live there. You go and live in Costa Rica. You go and live in Nicaragua. You go and live in maybe Panama, probably not. They're not really giving out citizenship in 5 years as they pretend to. So there's a few territorial tax countries. The question is, do you want to go and live in Nicaragua? They've got some nice beaches, but if we're talking about, big serious tax havens, Cayman Islands, that might not be the lifestyle you're looking for. So how do I get a citizenship? If you're a U.S. citizen and you're not content, paying a small percentage, somewhere in the single digits or very low double digits, then you need to get another citizenship. You need to renounce your citizenship. So the point is not just getting an extra citizenship. The point is getting another one and then removing the U.S. one. So the challenge is none of these countries are going to give you a citizenship right away. You're going to be stuck paying that money for at least 5 years to get a citizenship in a territorial tax country. Portugal now is 5 years plus processing time, so it's really 5, 6, 7 years. So if you're content, paying something less, but something for 5, 6, 7 years, then you can move to a place, live there, pay very little tax, structure your business in a way that's friendly to where you live, and then claim your citizenship and then renounce. If you don't want to do that, then you need to figure out the next piece of the personal, which is, where is your citizenship? And so there are a couple of different options. We have videos here on how to get a second passport. What would work if you don't want to wait is you need what we call CBI, Citizenship by Investment. And so interestingly enough, a couple of these countries are tax havens in and of themselves. Vanuatu, I mentioned, again, not really a program that I like, have been there, don't really care for it. Lots of Caribbean programs, 5 in total. One of those is St. Kitts and Nevis. So I'll add Nevis to my list of zero tax countries. The country of St. Kitts and Nevis, you can donate $150,000. If you're a single person, you can get citizenship in St. Kitts and Nevis in a matter of 4 or 5 months. If you want to pay a bit of extra money, they will ostensibly fast track it and get it to you in 60 days, if that's really important to you. St. Kitts and Nevis is a zero tax country to live, so no tax on Nevis companies, no tax if you live in St. Kitts and Nevis, and if you get your St. Kitts and Nevis passport, now you can remove the U.S. piece from the equation. Plenty of people have done that. I've helped people do that. Know people who have done that. And so you become St. Kitts and Nevis citizen, and now you remove the U.S., and now you've changed your citizenship to a point where you can enjoy zero here, no matter how much you earn, because St. Kitts and Nevis, whether you live there or whether you choose to go and live somewhere else, isn't going to bother you. So I hope you see what we're doing here. It's different for U.S. citizens than it is for everybody else, but the challenge is getting that citizenship quickly. Now here's the last piece, because we're talking about islands in the Caribbean that work for kind of all the pieces. You could live, work, and do your business out of here. Here's the one option, because we're talking about Americans, and this doesn't work for everybody. I do think it's overhyped, but Puerto Rico. How does Puerto Rico work? You can pay single-digit percentage on your income. You need to commit to spending the majority of your time in Puerto Rico. This needs to be your bona fide home. And so this is where it gets challenging, because people are promoting Puerto Rico as you just go there occasionally, you just fly in and then take a boat somewhere else. That's not how it works. You need to actually live in Puerto Rico. A lot of people don't like the idea of living in Puerto Rico. They'd rather go and live, in Dubai with all the shopping. They'd rather go and live in Monaco. They'd rather go and live in, a territorial tax country like Singapore and enjoy their life a bit more. But Puerto Rico is an option, single-digit tax, and it meets the criteria to where you don't need to change your citizenship, because Puerto Rico is part of the United States, and they've got basically a deal with the United States where you can pay around 4% of your income. Now, what people don't understand about Puerto Rico, which is a whole nother video, is that you don't just get to move to Puerto Rico and immediately claim all the savings that most of these guys will tell you can get. But you can move to Puerto Rico and start the clock on the savings, whether you're doing more passive, whether you're doing more active. So Puerto Rico is a sort of tax haven for Americans. You do have to move there. The personal and the business part go together, because you're living personally and doing business in Puerto Rico, and the citizenship stays the same. This is for the person who wants to stay U.S., wants to pay very low rates, and doesn't want to bother with any of this. Again, this is only going to work for certain types of people. Let's say you have a larger business. This is something that you really need to do some proper planning on, because people are out there selling Puerto Rico to everyone. I don't really think that's appropriate. Personally, As a lifestyle choice, I'd rather have my choice of all these different options. I'd rather have my choice of traveling around the world. I'd rather have my choice of incorporating my company where I want. I'd rather be able to have a second passport. And I'd rather be able to not depend on a bankrupt island that's tethered to the US to not change their policy in the future. Who knows what they'll change? I know people find that to be very contentious, that a lot of people who promote Puerto Rico are just pro Puerto Rico no matter what. But I think, who knows, it could change. But these are the choices. Moving, tax haven, and citizenship. It really is 4 different questions in one. Those are the things that you need to consider if you want to move to a tax haven, keep more of your own money. Hope that helps. Leave your comments below what questions you have. Love to hear your comments. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson from Nomad Capitalist. I wrote this book, which you can find on Amazon, to distill a lot of the stuff we talk about in these videos and a lot of the stuff I've learned over the last decade plus traveling all around the world, teaching you about how to legally reduce your taxes, build your personal freedom, and create wealth faster. Definitely get a copy of this book if you want to learn more. Now, if you want to watch more videos, make sure you subscribe to our channel and make sure you click the notifications bell so you never miss one of our new videos with more tips on how to go where you're treated best. And if you're already a 6- or 7-figure entrepreneur and you'd like to put these strategies in place for yourself, go to nomadcapitalist.com and learn about how I can help you.